Vin looked at his small timekeeper. He nodded to himself. Should be here in 10 minutes. He was across the universe, deep into territories far beyond the reach of human telescopes, past the many realms of scientific understanding, and yet, somehow, in a bar. Though, to his dismay, the bar had no other humans nor his favourite Earth IPA. Instead, it was packed tight with aliens. Smattering arrays of every shape, size, colour, and contradiction bubbled up and around the filling brim of the large building. It rumbled and rolled with activity. Languages flew alongside flecks of spit, acid, and whatever other vile chemicals were being distilled inside of those many creatures. That's him. At the entrance, 3 large creatures tried to make themselves look larger. Their type was usually called bulbs. As atop their massive green torsos and heads, 2 glowing bulbs sat like swaying crowns. They pointed across the busy room. That's human. Vin sat with his feet up, black jacket wrapped tight and right hand itching against itself for a cigarette. It was a welcome surprise to see that this galaxy drank alcohol too, but sadly tobacco was a purely Irvin affair. His hair was long, tied up tight, curled into a perfect knot and unveiling his angular, perceptive face. His eyes never moved quick, but they undoubtedly caught everything. He had to remember. He had 10 minutes. Man. They arrived in front of him, puffing out their chests. We're here for the artifact. Considering that he was the only human within a 1,000 light-year radius, human was what most called him. Worked just as well as his actual name at this point. He kicked a bag from under the table towards the bulbs. It's in there. Oh? They shuffled on their feet. Just like that? Vin tilted his head back against the seat and closed his eyes, taking a long, exhausted breath. Yep, that's it. Are they dead? Their delicacy fell away at his words, and they became excited. The 3 bulbs looked about each other, and laughed and nodded. They picked up the bag with brimming, almost childlike wonder. You're good, human. You're real good. Yep. He never thought he'd be in the position he was in. The feeling that sat inside of his chest, the one that balled up to the base of his neck and cooked his head, it was unfathomable. You've already been paid, yes? Yep. He'd be sent to kill these guys in no less than 5 rotations. It honestly didn't matter if they did or didn't pay. We were told human was too much, that you couldn't be controlled. The bulb holding the bag shook his head and smiled. They were wrong. You are good. There it was. He couldn't believe it, burning a hole in his chest. Thank you, human. It held up the bag, and they all walked away, amazed at their luck. Less than 5 minutes. Every one of those was agony in a place like this, and it only served to remind Vin of his twisting curse. Fuck me. He leaned up and began nervously tapping the table, looking around at the busy bar and continuing to monologue to himself. I really need a cigarette. He hated it, but he could see it from a mile away. In fact, he'd seen it from rotations away. A small group of bounty hunters had been tailing him for forever now, and they were about to make their move. Vin was just really hoping they could wait until the 5 minutes was up. Human. Fuck. We saw what you just did. Saw what you just did? The stupid sons of bitches were waiting to catch him in the act, as if their laws actually were ever enforced. Oh? Vin leaned back into the seat and threw his hands up, anxiously looking at the door and mentally counting down. Yeah, my bad. There were 6 of them, all spanning different types of aliens. Vin had long lost care in remembering the names. We know who you are. The leader was small and red, with large black eyes and a rather angry-looking face. We know you are human. Yeah, you said that. Vin was trying to look around them so he wouldn't lose sight of the door. Should be any moment now. His movements made them nervous, though they stood their ground. We're here to take you in. Unfathomable. Unbelievable. The feelings inside of Vin's chest bit more and more as they spoke. He didn't want to accept the fact that he so utterly knew to be true. Hey, can you shift over for me? He pushed one of the middle bounty hunters over. Just need to... Stalling! The red one yelled. We won't have it. They better not ruin this one for him. Yeah, sure, stop. No! The red one moved in front of his view, angry and getting louder. I know human tricks, I've read about you, and I know all about you. This, surprisingly, caught Vin's attention. Oh? Made in a lab by the Veils. He screamed it, proud of his own knowledge. Created to be a war machine, uncaring and unloving. I know all of your secrets, human. You are scum. You are test tube waste. We are here to finally end it all for you. To purge you from this universe. Something snapped in Vin. Something delicate and deep that he rarely touched. That he tried to never admit. But now it shattered. He stood up from the table, slow and with careful tact, so to not startle them into a fight yet. He straightened up his back, running his hands down the length of his pants to carve out their wrinkles. He spoke with a slow, deep cadence, as serious as the mayhem he was about to reap. I'm going to do you a favor. The bar had gone quiet. All were looking at him. I'm going to tell you the truth. He moved around the table and the hunters separated for him, intent on hearing his response. I have some bad news for you. Really bad news. You all seem to think that I'm some demon, some awful spawn that was made in a laboratory of war. But guess what? There's billions of me. Halfway across the universe, fucking around with their own problems. There's nations and tribes, families and armies. I am not human. I am a human. But... He rubbed his chin, ready to release the awful feeling that had been plaguing his stomach for years now. Ready to feel the relief of truth. That's not the bad news. The bad news is that I'm terribly, terribly lonely. The room was charged powder, silent besides the small sizzling fuse of his own voice, ready to trail up the conversation and set it all alight. His words were bullets. They were the knives and bombs that were ready to shatter the building. I'm lonely, he nodded. I'm lonely because somehow and some way you are all fucking idiots. It never would have occurred to me in my universe, but here I stand, ready to state the facts for you plain as day. Just as the aliens were realizing his words were the last they'd hear, the door behind them opened, and the politician he'd been waiting so long for finally walked in. Now there was no stopping him. His hand slowly reached around for his gun, and as it did, a wiry and clever smile found his face. The truth felt good. Humans are the most capable creatures in the entire universe. He drew his guns before they could think to stop him. And it's not even close.